Lisa Martinez felt her hands shake as she gripped the controls of her small Cessna plane. The morning sun blazed through her cockpit window, but she barely noticed its warmth. Her mind kept racing back to what lay hidden in the cargo area behind her seat. 3 days ago, her life had been normal and boring. She worked as a scientist studying space rocks and signals from outer space. Her days were filled with computer screens and data reports. Nothing exciting ever happened in her job until last Tuesday night. The phone call came at 2 in the morning. Her boss, Dr. Frank Weber, sounded worried and excited at the same time. Something had fallen from space into the Nevada desert. It was not a normal meteor or space junk. The object had slowed down before hitting the ground. It landed softly like it was being controlled. The government wanted it kept secret. Only a few people knew about it. Lisa was chosen because she could fly planes and understood space science. She drove through the night to reach the crash site. Military trucks surrounded the area. Soldiers with serious faces checked her identification papers 3 times. The object sat in a small crater about 50 feet wide. Lisa had expected to see twisted metal or burned rock. Instead, she found something that looked like a giant crystal. It was about the size of a refrigerator and glowed with soft blue light. The surface was smooth and reflected the desert stars like a mirror. When Lisa touched the crystal, her fingers tingled with electric energy. The glow became brighter for a moment. Strange sounds came from inside it, like music played too low to hear properly. The military scientists wanted to load it onto a big truck, but their equipment kept failing when they got close. Electronics stopped working. Radio signals became fuzzy. Even their watches ran slow near the crystal. Lisa suggested they try her small plane instead. For some reason, the crystal did not affect her Cessna the same way. The soldiers carefully lifted the object into her cargo area using ropes and wooden poles. As soon as it was secured inside her plane, the crystal became quiet. The strange energy field seemed to calm down. Lisa felt a weird connection to the object, like it was somehow alive and watching her. The flight plan was simple. She would fly from Nevada to a secret military base in Colorado. The route took her over mostly empty desert and mountains. No commercial airlines used this airspace. It should have been an easy trip. But 20 minutes into the flight, Lisa noticed her instruments acting strange. The compass spun in circles. The radio picked up signals in languages she did not recognize. Most frightening of all, her fuel gauge showed impossible readings. According to the gauge, she had been flying for 6 hours instead of 20 minutes. But the sun was still in the same position in the sky. Her watch showed the correct time, but her plane instruments disagreed. Lisa tried to call ground control, but only heard static and weird musical tones. The same tones that came from the crystal when she first touched it. That was when she saw the jets approaching from the east. 2 F-16 fighter planes flew toward her with practiced precision. Their sleek gray forms cut through the morning air like deadly arrows. Lisa felt her stomach drop. Fighter jets only intercepted civilian planes for serious reasons. Either she had flown into restricted airspace by mistake, or someone knew about her secret cargo. The lead jet moved closer until she could see the pilot's helmet through his cockpit glass. He wore a standard flight suit, but something about his posture seemed tense. The second F-16 took position on her other side. Now her small Cessna was trapped between 2 of the most advanced fighter planes in the world. Lisa knew these jets could destroy her plane in seconds if they wanted to. Her radio crackled to life with a clear, strong voice. The pilot sounded calm and professional, but Lisa heard an edge of suspicion in his tone. He identified himself as Major Jake Collins from Nellis Air Force Base. He ordered her to follow them to the base for immediate inspection. Lisa acknowledged the order, but her mind raced with questions. How did they find her so quickly? Why were they bringing her to Nellis instead of her planned destination? As they flew toward the base, Lisa noticed more strange things happening. Her crystal cargo had begun humming louder. The sound was not unpleasant, but it seemed to match the rhythm of her heartbeat. Through her rear window, she could see a faint glow coming from the cargo area. The light pulsed in time with the humming sound. Major Collins kept his F-16 close to her plane. Several times she caught him looking directly at her cargo bay instead of her cockpit. Did he know what she was carrying? Could his instruments detect the crystal somehow? Lisa remembered how the object had affected electronics at the crash site. Maybe military radar could sense its unusual energy. The flight to Nellis took 40 minutes but felt like hours. Lisa used the time to think about what she would tell the military officials. Her orders had been to keep the mission secret from everyone, including other government agencies. But now she was being forced to land at an Air Force base with fighter jet escorts. Someone had made a serious mistake in the mission planning. As they approached Nellis Air Force Base, Lisa saw unusual activity on the ground. More military vehicles than normal lined the runways. Scientists in white coats stood near special equipment she did not recognize. This was not a routine intercept. They were expecting her. Major Collins guided her to a remote hangar far from the main base buildings. As soon as her plane stopped moving, dozens of people surrounded it. Military police took positions around the aircraft. Scientists began setting up strange devices that looked like metal detectors but much more complex. Everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing. Lisa shut down her engine and sat quietly in her cockpit. Through her window, she watched the organized chaos outside. These people had done this before. They knew about objects like the one in her cargo bay. The realization hit her like a cold wave. This was not the first crystal to fall from space. There had been others. The crystal behind her seat hummed louder as if it sensed what was happening. The blue glow became bright enough to see even in daylight. Lisa felt the same electric tingling in her fingers that she had experienced in the desert. But this time the sensation was stronger and seemed to spread through her whole body. Major Collins appeared at her window and gestured for her to open the door. His eyes were serious but not unfriendly. When Lisa stepped out of her plane, she felt the desert heat hit her face. But underneath the normal warmth, she sensed something else, energy in the air that made her skin prickle. The crystal was affecting the entire area around her plane. As she walked toward the hangar, Lisa heard Collins speaking quietly into his radio. She caught only a few words, but they made her blood run cold. He mentioned 17 previous incidents and something called Project Stargate. Whatever was happening here had been going on for a long time. Her crystal was just the latest piece in a much bigger puzzle. The hangar doors closed behind them with a heavy metallic sound. Lisa realized her simple delivery mission had become something much more important and dangerous than anyone had told her. Inside the hangar, Lisa found herself facing 3 people in military uniforms and lab coats. The oldest was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes who introduced himself as Colonel Patrick Hayes. Next to him stood Dr. Amanda Foster, a woman about Lisa's age who looked like she had not slept in days. The third person was Major Collins, who had escorted her plane to the base. Colonel Hayes stepped forward with a serious expression on his weathered face. He looked like a man who had seen many strange things in his career, and was not easily surprised. But Lisa noticed his eyes kept glancing toward her plane, where the crystal continued to glow softly through the cargo bay. Windows. Dr. Foster spoke first, and her voice carried the tired excitement of a scientist who had been working on an impossible problem for too long. She explained that Lisa's crystal was the 18th object they had recovered in the past 2 years. Each one had fallen from space in a similar manner. Each one had the same blue glow and strange energy effects. Most importantly, each one had been broadcasting the same mysterious signal that their equipment could barely detect. Lisa felt her legs become weak as she absorbed this information. She had thought her mission was about studying a single unusual meteorite. Instead, she had stumbled into something that sounded like science fiction. Dr. Foster led her to a wall covered with photographs and charts. The images showed crystals identical to the one in her plane. They had been found near major cities around the world: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. Each discovery had been kept secret from the public. Major Collins joined the conversation, and his engineering background showed in the technical questions he asked. He wanted to know about the crystal's effect on navigation equipment. Lisa described how her instruments had malfunctioned during the flight, the compass spinning wildly, the fuel gauge showing impossible readings, the radio picking up strange signals in unknown languages. Dr. Foster nodded as if she had heard this story many times before. She explained that all 18 crystals interfered with electronics in unusual ways, but the interference was not random or chaotic. It followed specific patterns that suggested intelligent design. The crystals were not just broadcasting signals. They were actively scanning and analyzing human technology. Colonel Hayes walked over to a secure computer terminal and entered a long password. The screen displayed a world map with 18 red dots marking crystal locations. Lisa studied the pattern and realized the dots formed a perfect geometric shape when connected. The placement was too precise to be accidental. Someone or something had deliberately positioned these objects around Earth. The colonel explained that each crystal had activated when human technology reached a certain level of advancement in its area. The one near Silicon Valley had activated when computer processing speeds hit a specific threshold. The crystal near NASA's headquarters had awakened when rocket technology achieved certain capabilities. The pattern suggested that someone was monitoring human technological progress very carefully. Dr. Foster led Lisa to another section of the hangar, where her crystal had been carefully removed from the plane. It sat on a metal table surrounded by instruments and cameras. The blue glow seemed brighter now, and Lisa could hear the humming sound more clearly. The rhythm was definitely matching her heartbeat. When she stepped closer, the glow intensified. When she moved away, it dimmed. Major Collins noticed the connection between Lisa and the crystal. He asked if she had experienced any unusual sensations or thoughts since touching the object in the desert. Lisa hesitated before answering. She had felt strange during the flight, dreams that were too vivid. Images in her mind of star systems she had never seen. Mathematical equations that were beyond her knowledge but somehow familiar. As if responding to their conversation, the crystal suddenly flared with brilliant light. Everyone in the hangar stepped back except Lisa, who felt drawn toward the object. The humming sound became a complex musical pattern with harmonies and rhythms that seemed to carry meaning. Then something impossible happened. Images began appearing in the air above the crystal. The holographic display showed Earth from space, but not as it looked today. This was Earth millions of years ago, when continents had different shapes and the atmosphere glowed with different colors. The image changed to show other planets orbiting distant stars. Some were covered with vast cities that sparkled like jewels. Others were barren wastelands marked with the scars of ancient wars. Dr. Foster frantically activated recording equipment to capture the display. The images continued changing to show what appeared to be the history of space travel. Ships that looked nothing like human rockets traveled between star systems, through corridors of twisted space. Alien beings worked together to build structures that dwarfed planets. The technology was so advanced it seemed like magic. Colonel Hayes ordered everyone to remain calm, but his voice carried an edge of excitement. This was the first time any of the crystals had produced visual displays. The activation seemed connected to Lisa's presence. When she moved closer to the crystal, the images became clearer and more detailed. When she stepped away, they faded and became fuzzy. The hologram shifted to show a massive space station orbiting a star Lisa did not recognize. The structure was enormous, with rings and towers that stretched for thousands of miles. Ships from dozens of different civilizations docked at various ports. The beings that emerged were unlike anything in Earth's fossil record. Some walked on two legs like humans but had different numbers of arms or eyes. Others floated through the air or moved like living liquid. Major Collins asked the question everyone was thinking. Were these images showing real places and events, or were they some kind of fictional story meant to entertain or deceive? The crystal pulsed brighter, as if responding to his doubt. The display zoomed in on one section of the space station where human-like figures worked alongside clearly alien beings. The humans wore clothing and used tools that looked familiar but more advanced than current Earth technology. Lisa stepped even closer to the crystal and placed her hand near its surface without quite touching it. The electrical tingling sensation returned, but stronger than before. Images flooded her mind faster than the holographic display could show them. She saw vast libraries containing the knowledge of hundreds of civilizations, universities where beings from different worlds studied together, trading posts where incredible technologies were shared freely. But she also saw darker images, worlds that had been destroyed by their own technology, species that had discovered faster than light travel before learning wisdom, and had spread warfare across entire star systems, civilizations that had been contacted too early and had collapsed under the weight of knowledge they were not ready to handle. Dr. Foster noticed that Lisa's vital signs were changing according to the medical sensors they had attached to monitor everyone in the hangar. Her brain activity showed patterns similar to deep meditation or REM sleep, but she remained fully conscious and responsive. The crystal was somehow interfacing directly with her nervous system. The holographic display changed again to show Earth's solar system, but with additions that did not exist in reality. Structures orbited the sun, harvesting its energy. Stations positioned near Jupiter mined its atmosphere for rare gases. Most surprisingly, a network of crystalline objects formed geometric patterns throughout the system, objects identical to the 18 that had fallen to Earth. Colonel Hayes realized they were looking at a prediction or plan for humanity's future. The crystals were not just monitoring human progress. They were preparing to offer humanity membership in some kind of galactic civilization. But the offer came with conditions and tests that were not yet clear. Major Collins studied the technical details visible in the holographic displays. The engineering principles shown were far beyond current human knowledge, but not impossible to understand. Whoever had created these images wanted humans to eventually comprehend and build similar technologies. But the progression was carefully planned to avoid the disasters that had befallen other species. As the display continued, Lisa began to understand that the crystals were part of an evaluation system. Young civilizations that reached certain technological milestones were given opportunities to prove their readiness for contact with galactic society. The tests were designed to measure not just technological capability, but wisdom, cooperation, and the ability to handle power responsibly. The crystal's glow suddenly dimmed and the holographic display faded away. Lisa removed her hand from near its surface and stepped back, feeling mentally exhausted. The brief contact had filled her mind with more information than she could process. She understood now that her simple delivery mission had been the beginning of the most important moment in human history. Dr. Foster immediately began analyzing the recorded data while Colonel Hayes contacted his superiors through secure communication channels. Major Collins remained focused on Lisa, who seemed to be the key to communicating with the crystal. Whatever these objects wanted from humanity, they had chosen her as their primary contact point. Within hours, the hangar filled with experts from around the world. Linguists arrived to study the symbols that had appeared in the holographic display. Computer specialists worked to decode the mathematical patterns hidden in the crystal's energy emissions. Military strategists analyzed the implications of contact with advanced alien civilizations. Everyone wanted to understand what the crystals were trying to communicate. Dr. Peter Clark was the most important addition to the team. He had spent 20 years studying ancient languages and had developed new methods for decoding unknown writing systems. The symbols from the crystal display reminded him of mathematical notation, but with elements that suggested emotional or philosophical concepts. The aliens seemed to think in ways that combined logic with intuition. Lisa found herself at the center of attention because only she could activate the crystal's visual displays. When other people approached the object, it remained dormant. But when Lisa came near it, the blue glow intensified, and the humming sounds became complex musical patterns. Dr. Foster theorized that the crystal had somehow bonded with Lisa during her first contact in the desert. Major Collins spent his time studying the technical diagrams that appeared in the holographic displays. His engineering background helped him recognize propulsion systems and power generation methods that were far beyond current human capabilities. But the aliens had not simply shown advanced technology. They had provided step-by-step progressions that would allow humans to develop similar systems gradually over many years. The awesome breakthrough came when Dr. Clark realized that the crystal's signals were not just random communications. They were responses to human thoughts and questions. When Lisa wondered about the purpose of the crystals, the display showed evaluation procedures. When she worried about the safety of contact, the hologram demonstrated protective protocols. The crystal was actively participating in a conversation. Colonel Hayes organized the team into specialized groups to maximize their efficiency. The linguists worked on translating the symbolic language. The scientists analyzed the physics principles shown in the technical displays. The military advisors developed protocols for handling potential threats or opportunities. Everyone understood they were dealing with the most significant discovery in human history. Lisa discovered she could influence the crystal's responses by focusing her thoughts on specific questions. When she concentrated on asking about the other 17 crystals, the display showed their locations and current status. All 18 objects were connected through some kind of quantum communication network that operated faster than light. Information shared with one crystal was instantly available to all the others. Dr. Foster made a disturbing discovery while analyzing the crystal's energy patterns. The objects were not just passively observing human civilization, they were actively scanning every electronic device within a 50-mile radius. Computer networks, communication systems, weapons platforms, everything was being cataloged and analyzed. The aliens had been building a complete database of human technology and capabilities. The implications worried Colonel Hayes, who realized that humanity was completely transparent to whoever had sent the crystals. Every military secret, every technological advancement, every strategic weakness was known to the aliens. If they decided humanity was a threat, they possessed all the information needed to neutralize human civilization quickly and efficiently. Major Collins focused on understanding the alien technology displayed in the holograms. The propulsion systems used principles that human physics could barely explain. Space was bent and folded to allow faster-than-light travel. Energy was extracted from the quantum vacuum itself. Matter could be converted directly into any desired form. The technological gap between humans and the crystal creators was enormous, but the aliens had not simply demonstrated their superiority. The holographic displays included detailed instructions for developing each technology safely. Warning symbols marked dangerous approaches that could lead to catastrophic accidents. Recommended sequences showed how to master each advancement before attempting the next level. The aliens wanted humans to succeed, not fail. Dr. Clark made the most important discovery when he decoded the central message embedded in all the crystal communications. The objects were not scouts for an invasion force. They were not advance warnings of coming conquest. Instead, they were invitations to join something called the Galactic Confederation, a voluntary association of species that had proven themselves worthy of membership through wisdom and restraint. The evaluation process had multiple stages designed to test different aspects of civilization development. Technological capability was important but not sufficient. The aliens also measured social cooperation, environmental stewardship, and the ability to handle power responsibly. Many species had failed these tests by becoming aggressive or destroying their home worlds before achieving space travel. Lisa learned through her mental connection with the crystal that humanity was currently in the early stages of evaluation. The 18 objects had been placed around Earth to monitor human response to the discovery of alien technology. How would governments react? Would they try to weaponize the crystals or study them peacefully? Would they share the discovery with their citizens or keep it secret? Every decision was being carefully observed and recorded. The crystal revealed that several other species were also undergoing evaluation at the same time. Competition existed between civilizations to prove worthiness for Confederation membership. But the competition was not based on military strength or technological advancement. Instead, species were judged on their wisdom, compassion, and ability to contribute positively to galactic civilization. Major Collins realized that the alien evaluation had already begun influencing human behavior. The need to prove worthiness was encouraging cooperation between normally competitive nations. Scientists were sharing research freely instead of hoarding secrets. Military leaders were considering peaceful applications for new technologies instead of focusing only on weapons development. Dr. Foster discovered that the crystals were designed to gradually increase their activity as human evaluation progressed. The holographic displays would become more detailed and interactive. Direct communication with alien representatives would eventually become possible, but only if humanity continued to demonstrate wisdom and restraint in handling the initial contact. The team faced a critical decision about how to proceed. Colonel Hayes wanted to maintain military control over the crystals and limit access to prevent security breaches. Dr. Clark argued for international cooperation and open sharing of all discoveries. Lisa felt torn between her loyalty to her own government and her growing sense that the crystals belonged to all humanity. The crystal seemed to sense the tension within the team because its displays began showing examples of how other species had handled similar situations. Some civilizations had been destroyed by internal conflicts over alien contact. Others had united and successfully joined the galactic community. The message was clear that humanity's response to this discovery would determine its future survival and prosperity. Late that night, while most of the team rested, Lisa remained alone with the crystal. She placed her hand close to its surface and asked the most important question she could think of. What did humanity need to do to pass the evaluation and gain membership in the Galactic Confederation? The crystal's response filled her mind with complex images and concepts that would take days to fully understand. But the central message was simple. Humanity needed to prove it could handle advanced technology without destroying itself or threatening others. The species needed to demonstrate wisdom, compassion, and the ability to think beyond immediate self-interest. Most importantly, humans needed to show they could work together peacefully despite their differences. The crystal revealed that the evaluation period would last exactly 1 Earth year from the activation of the first object. Humanity had already used 4 months of that time. In 8 months, the Galactic Confederation would make its final decision about whether to offer membership or leave Earth in isolation for another 1,000 years. Lisa understood that her role was just beginning. As the primary human contact with the crystal, she would need to help guide her species through the most important test in its history. The weight of responsibility felt overwhelming, but she also felt honored to be part of something so significant. The crystal's glow dimmed as Lisa ended their mental connection. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as world leaders learned about the evaluation process and the limited time remaining. Humanity's future among the stars depended on decisions that would be made in the coming months. Major Jake Collins could not sleep after his first day working with the alien crystal. His mind kept returning to the technical displays he had seen in the holographic projections. As an aerospace engineer before joining the Air Force, he understood propulsion systems and energy generation better than most of the other team members. Something about the alien technology bothered him, but he could not identify what was wrong. At 3 a.m, Jake gave up trying to rest and returned to the hangar. Security guards let him pass after checking his identification. The crystal sat on its metal table, glowing softly in the dim emergency lighting. Most of the scientific equipment had been shut down for the night. Jake found himself alone with the most important discovery in human history. He activated his tablet computer and pulled up the technical diagrams he had photographed during the day's holographic displays. The alien propulsion system used something called a space compression drive that folded distances to achieve faster-than-light travel. The mathematics were incredibly complex, but Jake had studied similar theories during his engineering education. The basic principles were not impossible to understand, but as Jake studied the equations more carefully, he began to notice small inconsistencies. Formulas that should connect smoothly instead had tiny gaps. Energy calculations that did not quite balance. Mathematical relationships that were almost correct but contained subtle errors. At first he thought the problems were due to incomplete information or translation difficulties. Then Jake realized the errors were too precise and systematic to be accidental. Someone had deliberately introduced flaws into the technical specifications. The space compression drive would work exactly as shown until the moment when accumulated errors caused catastrophic failure. Any civilization that built this technology according to the alien instructions would destroy itself in a massive explosion. The discovery sent chills through Jake's body as he understood the implications. The alien evaluation was not just about measuring human wisdom and cooperation. It was also a trap designed to eliminate species that were too eager to acquire advanced technology without understanding its dangers. The crystals were offering humanity the rope to hang itself. Jake spent the next hour examining every technical display he had recorded. The pattern of deliberate flaws appeared in all the advanced technologies shown by the crystal. Faster-than-light communication systems that would overload and destroy themselves. Energy generators that would create unstable quantum reactions. Weapons platforms that would turn on their creators. Every gift from the aliens contained hidden poison. But Jake also noticed something else in the technical displays. Alongside the flawed main designs were smaller subsidiary diagrams that seemed to show safety systems and error corrections. The information needed to build the technology safely was present, but separated from the main instructions. Someone studying the displays carefully would eventually find the corrections, but only after extensive analysis and research. Jake realized he was looking at the real evaluation test. The aliens were not just measuring whether humans would try to build advanced technology. They were testing whether humanity was wise enough to thoroughly understand and verify alien gifts before using them. Species that rushed blindly into building faster-than-light drives would destroy themselves. Those that studied carefully and found the safety corrections would prove their worthiness. As dawn approached, Jake made a decision that could change the course of human history. He could report his discovery to Colonel Hayes and the rest of the team. The flawed technologies would be exposed and humanity would avoid the trap. But Jake suspected the aliens were monitoring their communications and would know their test had been discovered. How would the Galactic Confederation react to humans who had figured out the evaluation method? Instead, Jake chose a different approach. He would keep his discovery secret while carefully studying the crystal's responses to different questions and situations. If the aliens were testing human wisdom, he would demonstrate that wisdom by proceeding cautiously. The safety corrections hidden in the technical displays suggested that passing the test was possible for species that approached the technology with proper care. When the rest of the team arrived that morning, Jake acted as if nothing had changed. He participated in the daily briefings and analysis sessions while secretly conducting his own investigation. Lisa continued to serve as the primary interface with the crystal, but Jake began asking specific questions about technological safety and verification procedures. The crystal seemed to respond positively to Jake's cautious approach. When he asked about potential dangers in faster-than-light travel, the holographic displays showed examples of civilizations that had suffered accidents. When he inquired about proper testing procedures, the crystal demonstrated step-by-step safety protocols. The aliens appeared pleased that someone was asking the right questions. Dr. Foster noticed that Jake was spending extra time studying the technical displays but assumed he was simply fascinated by the advanced engineering principles. Colonel Hayes appreciated Jake's thorough approach to analyzing potential military applications of the alien technology. No one suspected that Jake had discovered the fundamental nature of the evaluation test. Over the following days, Jake developed a theory about how the alien evaluation system worked. The crystals were programmed to respond differently to different types of questions and approaches. Species that focused only on acquiring power and advanced weapons would receive flawed technologies that would destroy them. Civilizations that emphasized wisdom and careful study would gradually gain access to safe and functional designs. The key was demonstrating the right priorities and thought processes. When team members asked about building weapons, the crystal showed dangerous, unstable technologies. When they inquired about peaceful applications, the displays revealed safer, more reliable systems. The aliens were constantly adjusting their responses based on human behavior and stated intentions. Jake began subtly influencing the team's questions and research directions. He suggested focusing on safety systems before studying propulsion technologies. He recommended extensive computer modeling before attempting to build any alien devices. His engineering background gave his suggestions credibility with the other team members who respected his technical expertise. Lisa noticed the change in Jake's behavior during her interactions with the crystal. The alien device seemed more responsive and cooperative when Jake was present during communication sessions. The holographic displays became more detailed and included additional safety information that had not appeared before. Lisa sensed that Jake understood something important about the crystal that he had not shared with the group. The breakthrough came when Jake asked the crystal a direct question about evaluation procedures while Lisa maintained the mental connection. He wanted to know if there were species that had successfully passed the test and joined the Galactic Confederation. The response was more detailed than any previous display. The crystal showed dozens of civilizations that had overcome the technology trap and earned membership in galactic society. Each species had demonstrated the wisdom to thoroughly study and verify alien gifts before attempting to use them. The successful civilizations had also shown restraint in developing weapons and had prioritized peaceful cooperation over military dominance. But the display also revealed the fate of species that had failed the evaluation. Hundreds of worlds were marked with symbols indicating civilizations that had destroyed themselves using flawed alien technology. The space compression drives had created artificial black holes that consumed entire star systems. Quantum energy generators had triggered vacuum collapse events that sterilized whole regions of space. Jake understood that humanity was approaching a critical decision point. In a few more weeks, the team would have enough information to begin building alien technologies. If they proceeded without discovering the safety corrections, the results would be catastrophic. But if Jake revealed his knowledge too early, the aliens might consider it cheating and disqualify humanity from the evaluation. The solution came to Jake during a late-night conversation with Lisa about the crystal's behavior patterns. She mentioned that the alien device seemed to respond to genuine curiosity and concern for safety, rather than just technical knowledge. Jake realized he needed to guide the team toward discovering the flawed technologies naturally. Through their own careful analysis, he began asking increasingly detailed questions about potential failure modes and safety systems in the alien designs. Other team members started following his example and requesting more thorough technical specifications. Dr. Foster suggested running computer simulations of the alien technologies before attempting to build physical prototypes. The crystal's responses became more comprehensive as the team demonstrated proper caution and scientific methodology. Hidden safety systems were revealed when the humans asked appropriate questions. Error correction codes appeared when the team requested verification procedures. The aliens were rewarding careful, thoughtful behavior with access to safer, more reliable information. Jake felt the weight of responsibility as he realized his discovery had probably saved humanity from destruction. By recognizing the trap and responding with wisdom, 3 weeks after Jake's discovery about the flawed technologies, the crystal began exhibiting new behaviors that surprised everyone on the team. The blue glow had intensified and now pulsed in complex rhythms that seemed almost like a heartbeat. The humming sounds had evolved into what could only be described as musical compositions with harmonies and melodies that carried emotional weight. Lisa found her connection with the crystal becoming stronger each day. During communication sessions, she experienced vivid mental images that felt more like memories than simple information displays. She saw herself walking through the corridors of massive space stations and attending meetings with beings from dozens of different worlds. The experiences were so realistic that she sometimes forgot she was still sitting in the military hangar. Dr. Foster documented every change in the crystal's behavior while trying to understand what was causing the evolution. The object's energy output had increased by 30% over the past week. Its electromagnetic signature had become more complex with frequencies that did not match any known natural phenomena. Most intriguingly, the crystal had begun responding to questions that had not been asked aloud. Major Collins continued his careful analysis of the alien technology, while secretly monitoring the team's progress toward discovering the safety flaws he had identified. Several other team members were beginning to notice inconsistencies in the technical displays. Dr. Clark had found mathematical errors in the translation protocols. Dr. Foster had identified energy imbalances in the quantum generators. The team was approaching the critical realization on their own. Colonel Hayes received daily reports from government officials who were growing impatient with the slow pace of technological development. Military leaders wanted working prototypes of alien weapon systems. Politicians demanded practical applications that could demonstrate American superiority over other nations. The pressure to move faster conflicted with the careful, methodical approach that Jake knew was necessary for survival. The breakthrough in direct communication came unexpectedly during what should have been a routine analysis session. Lisa was maintaining her usual mental connection with the crystal, while the team studied new holographic displays. Suddenly, the alien device flared with brilliant light and Lisa's consciousness was pulled into direct contact with a living intelligence. The being that spoke to Lisa's mind identified itself as Ambassador Keth of the Galactic Confederation. Its mental voice carried warmth and ancient wisdom along with subtle undertones of sadness. Keth explained that it had been observing humanity's progress through the crystal network and was pleased with the careful, thoughtful approach the evaluation team had demonstrated. Through Lisa, the ambassador addressed the entire team gathered in the hangar. Keth's words appeared as text on computer screens while Lisa spoke them aloud in her own voice. The alien expressed satisfaction that humans had begun questioning the technical specifications instead of blindly attempting to build advanced technologies. This demonstrated the wisdom that was essential for membership in galactic civilization. Jake felt both relief and apprehension as Ambassador Keth directly acknowledged the flawed technologies that had been presented to humanity. The alien explained that every species underwent this same test during their evaluation period. Those who rushed to build faster than light drives without proper verification typically destroyed themselves within days. Civilizations that studied carefully and found the safety corrections proved their readiness for contact. Dr. Foster asked about the other species currently undergoing evaluation and learned that 6 different civilizations were being tested simultaneously. 3 had already failed by attempting to build flawed technologies without adequate safety analysis. 1 had discovered the trap, but had then tried to use the corrected designs to build weapons for conquest. Only 2 species besides humanity were still progressing successfully through the evaluation process. The ambassador revealed that the 18 crystals placed around Earth were just the beginning of a much larger communication network. Successful species received access to quantum communication systems that connected every member world of the Galactic Confederation. Information, knowledge, and cultural exchanges flowed freely between civilizations that had proven themselves worthy of trust and cooperation. But Keth also warned that membership in the Confederation came with serious responsibilities. Each species was expected to contribute to the common good of galactic civilization. Military conflicts between member worlds were strictly forbidden. Environmental destruction and resource exploitation were carefully regulated. Most importantly, new member species had to demonstrate they could handle advanced technology without becoming a threat to others. Colonel Hayes asked about the practical implications of Confederation membership for Earth's existing governments and military establishments. Ambassador Keth explained that planetary political systems were generally left unchanged as long as they met basic standards for citizen welfare and environmental protection. The Confederation provided guidance and assistance but did not impose specific governmental structures on member worlds. Lisa learned through her mental connection that the evaluation period had been extended by 6 months due to humanity's promising progress. The original timeline had been based on average species development rates, but humans were advancing more quickly than expected, while maintaining appropriate caution. The Galactic Confederation was impressed with humanity's combination of technological creativity and scientific restraint. Major Collins asked about the military threats that the ambassador had mentioned earlier. Keth revealed that the galaxy contained several aggressive species that had been rejected for Confederation membership due to their violent tendencies. These civilizations sometimes attacked younger species to steal their technology, or simply to demonstrate their power. Confederation members were protected by advanced defense systems and mutual aid agreements. The revelation that hostile aliens existed changed the entire context of the evaluation process. Humanity was not just being tested for membership in a peaceful academic society. They were being recruited to join a defensive alliance against genuine threats. The stakes were much higher than anyone had realized. Dr. Clark inquired about the cultural and scientific benefits of Confederation membership. Ambassador Keth described vast libraries containing the accumulated knowledge of hundreds of civilizations. Universities where beings from different worlds studied together to solve complex problems. Research projects that required the combined efforts of multiple species to achieve breakthrough discoveries. The ambassador also revealed that several Confederation members had biological origins similar to humans. These species had faced comparable challenges during their development and could provide valuable guidance for humanity's integration into galactic society. The transition period typically lasted several decades as new member worlds gradually adopted Confederation technologies and protocols. Lisa asked about the timeline for completing the evaluation process and learned that humanity had passed the most dangerous phase by recognizing and avoiding the technology trap. The remaining tests would focus on social cooperation and environmental stewardship rather than technological competence. The final decision about Confederation membership would be made by a council representing all current member species. As the communication session continued, Jake realized that his discovery about the flawed technologies had been just the beginning of a much larger test. The aliens were evaluating every aspect of human civilization, from military restraint to environmental protection to international cooperation. Passing the evaluation would require changes in how humanity approached both technology and relationships with other nations. Ambassador Keth concluded the session by providing the team with access to basic Confederation databases containing information about member species and their histories. The data would help humanity understand what was expected of new members and how to prepare for the final evaluation phases. But the ambassador also warned that this increased access came with greater responsibility to prove worthy of the trust being placed in human civilization. After the crystal returned to its normal blue glow, Lisa felt mentally exhausted from the intense communication session. The direct contact with an alien intelligence had been overwhelming but also exhilarating. She understood now that her role as the primary human interface with the crystals was just beginning. The real work of preparing humanity for galactic Citizenship lay ahead. Colonel Hayes immediately began planning how to brief government leaders about the new developments while maintaining operational security. The revelation about hostile alien species would require significant changes in military planning and international cooperation. Jake knew that the next few months would determine whether humanity could rise to meet the challenges of membership in a galactic civilization. The decision to reveal the existence of the crystals to world leaders came after intense debate within the evaluation team. Colonel Hayes argued for maintaining strict security to prevent panic and international conflicts. Dr. Foster insisted that the scale of the challenge required global cooperation that was impossible without transparency. Lisa felt torn between her scientific instincts to share knowledge and her understanding of how dangerous the information could become in the wrong hands. Ambassador Keth resolved the debate by explaining that the next phase of evaluation specifically required humanity to demonstrate its ability to cooperate across national and cultural boundaries. The Galactic Confederation had observed too many species destroy themselves through internal conflicts after making contact with alien civilizations. Global unity was not just preferred, but essential for membership. The revelation process began with secure communications to the leaders of the world's major powers. President Carter received the first briefing at the White House along with his top military and scientific advisors. The initial reaction was skepticism until Colonel Hayes presented video recordings of the crystal's holographic displays and Ambassador Keth's direct communications. Chinese Premier Liu and Russian President Volkov received simultaneous briefings in their respective capitals. Both leaders demanded independent verification of the American claims before accepting the reality of alien contact. Dr. Foster arranged for crystals to be transported to Beijing and Moscow under heavy security escort. When the objects activated for Chinese and Russian scientists, the reality of the situation became undeniable. The European Union leaders gathered in an emergency session in Brussels, where they viewed recordings of Ambassador Keth's communications. Prime Minister Johnson represented the United Kingdom, while Chancellor Müller spoke for Germany. The initial European response focused on ensuring that no single nation gained exclusive access to alien technologies or communications. Jake found himself involved in technical briefings for military leaders who struggled to understand the implications of faster-than-light travel and quantum energy generation. The temptation to gain immediate military advantages was strong, but Jake carefully explained the safety issues that made rushing toward advanced weapons extremely dangerous. His engineering credibility helped convince skeptical generals to support a cautious approach. Dr. Clark worked with teams of linguists from around the world to develop better translation protocols for communicating with Ambassador Keth. The alien language contained conceptual frameworks that had no equivalent in human languages. Ideas about time, space, and consciousness required entirely new vocabulary to express properly. The translation challenges highlighted how different human and alien thinking could be. Lisa discovered that her role as the primary crystal interface made her one of the most important people on Earth. Government officials competed for access to her time and insights. Intelligence agencies wanted to know every detail of her mental communications with Ambassador Keth. The pressure was overwhelming, but Lisa understood that maintaining her connection with the crystals was essential for humanity's future. The international response to the revelation varied dramatically between different regions and cultures. Some nations immediately called for complete transparency and global cooperation. Others demanded exclusive access to alien technologies for national security reasons. A few governments accused the United States of fabricating the entire story to justify new military programs. Ambassador Keth monitored these reactions carefully and expressed concern about humanity's initial response to the revelation. The alien explained that species which could not achieve basic cooperation during first contact typically failed later evaluations even if they passed the technology tests. Internal conflicts and competition for alien favor were seen as signs of fundamental unworthiness for galactic citizenship. The United Nations convened an emergency session where representatives from every member nation gathered to address the alien contact situation. Secretary General Martinez struggled to maintain order as delegates argued about verification procedures and access protocols. Some nations demanded proof that the crystals were genuine, while others insisted on immediate technology sharing agreements. Jake participated in technical demonstrations designed to convince skeptical international observers. When crystals were activated in the presence of UN delegates, the holographic displays provided undeniable evidence of advanced alien technology. But the demonstrations also revealed how different nations interpreted the same information in vastly different ways based on their political and cultural perspectives. The revelation created immediate challenges for existing international relationships and military alliances. NATO members debated whether alien contact required invoking mutual defense provisions. The Warsaw Pact nations questioned whether capitalist countries could be trusted with advanced alien technologies. Non-aligned nations worried about being excluded from future technological developments. Dr. Foster established research protocols that required international participation in all crystal studies. Scientists from competing nations were forced to work together on translation projects and technical analysis. The collaboration was often difficult and tense, but slowly began producing better results than any single nation could achieve alone. Ambassador Keth expressed approval for these cooperative efforts. Religious leaders around the world struggled to interpret the theological implications of confirmed alien contact. Some saw the crystals as evidence of divine creation operating on a galactic scale. Others worried that alien technologies would undermine traditional spiritual beliefs. The Vatican convened a special theological commission to study the religious significance of membership in a galactic civilization. Economic markets reacted with extreme volatility as investors tried to predict the implications of alien contact for existing industries and technologies. Stock prices for aerospace and defense companies fluctuated wildly. Currency exchanges became unstable as nations competed to position themselves advantageously for acquiring alien technologies. The global financial system required emergency interventions to prevent complete collapse. Media coverage of the alien contact story created both opportunities and problems for the evaluation process. Public interest and support for international cooperation increased dramatically as people understood the stakes involved. But sensationalized reporting also spread misinformation and conspiracy theories that complicated official diplomatic efforts. Ambassador Keth noted that public opinion would influence the final evaluation decisions. Lisa worked with international teams of psychologists and sociologists to study how different cultures interpreted the crystal communications. The alien concepts of unity and cooperation meant different things to individualistic and collectivistic societies. Bridging these cultural gaps was essential for developing the global consensus that Ambassador Keth indicated was necessary for passing the evaluation. The establishment of the International Crystal Coordination Committee marked the first step toward the global governance structure that would be needed for Confederation membership. Representatives from all major nations participated in planning sessions to develop protocols for studying the crystals and communicating with Ambassador Keth. The committee faced constant challenges from competing national interests and cultural differences. Jake observed that the evaluation process was forcing humanity to confront fundamental questions about cooperation, competition, and shared responsibility. The technological temptations offered by the crystals created opportunities for both unity and conflict. How nations chose to respond would determine not just Confederation membership, but the future survival of human civilization. As the international response to the crystal revelation continued to evolve, Ambassador Keth began providing more specific guidance about the requirements for passing the final evaluation phases. The alien emphasized that technological competence was less important than social maturity and the ability to think beyond immediate self-interest. Humanity would need to demonstrate that it could act as a responsible member of galactic civilization. The revelation phase concluded with the establishment of permanent crystal research facilities in 7 major cities around the world. Each facility was staffed by international teams of scientists and operated under UN oversight. The global network would allow for continuous communication with Ambassador Keth, while ensuring that no single nation could monopolize access to alien knowledge. Lisa understood that the hardest challenges still lay ahead, as humanity struggled to overcome centuries of competition and conflict in order to meet the Confederation's requirements for membership. The next phase of evaluation would test whether humans could actually achieve the unity and cooperation that they had promised to the aliens. 6 months after the global revelation, Ambassador Keth announced that humanity would face its final evaluation test. The alien explained through Lisa's mental connection that the Galactic Confederation had observed human efforts at cooperation with mixed results. While scientific collaboration had improved significantly, political and military competition continued to threaten the unity required for membership. The test would be both practical and symbolic. A massive alien structure would appear in Earth's orbit within 72 hours. The structure contained advanced technologies that could solve many of humanity's most pressing problems, including clean energy generation, climate change, mitigation, and disease elimination. But accessing these technologies would require unprecedented cooperation between all of Earth's nations. Dr. Foster worked frantically to coordinate the international response as governments struggled to develop unified positions on how to approach the alien structure. The European Union wanted to treat the test as a scientific research project with shared results. The United States preferred a more controlled approach with careful security protocols. China and Russia demanded equal participation in any access agreements. Jake found himself in the middle of technical planning sessions that revealed the depth of international mistrust. Military leaders from different nations refused to share sensitive information about their capabilities. Scientists hoarded research data that might provide competitive advantages. The cooperation that Ambassador Keth had requested seemed impossible, given the long history of human conflicts. The alien structure materialized exactly on schedule as a massive crystalline construct that dwarfed the International Space Station. Its geometric surfaces reflected sunlight in brilliant patterns that were visible from Earth even during daylight hours. Telescopic observations revealed multiple docking ports and what appeared to be invitation signals broadcasting on frequencies the crystals had taught humans to monitor. Lisa discovered that her connection with the Earth-based crystals now extended to the orbital structure. Through her mental link, Ambassador Keth explained that the structure contained 7 different chambers, each holding technologies that could transform human civilization. But each chamber required activation codes that could only be generated through genuine cooperation between specific groups of nations. The first chamber required joint activation by the permanent members of the UN Security Council. The United States, Britain, France, Russia, and China would need to coordinate their efforts perfectly to unlock clean fusion energy technology. Initial attempts failed because each nation tried to maintain individual control over the activation process. Ambassador Keth emphasized that the technology demanded complete trust and shared authority. Dr. Clark worked with diplomatic teams to develop the communication protocols needed for coordinated activation attempts. The challenge was not technical, but psychological, as national leaders struggled to surrender even temporary control to international committees. Decades of competition and suspicion made the required level of cooperation feel impossible. The second chamber demanded collaboration between nations that had been enemies within the past 50 years. Germany and the United Kingdom needed to work with Poland and France. Japan required cooperation with China and South Korea. The historical grievances and cultural differences made these partnerships extremely difficult to establish. Jake participated in engineering conferences where technical experts from rival nations had to design joint systems for accessing the alien technologies. The work required sharing classified information and trusting former enemies with sensitive capabilities. Progress was slow, and tensions remained high as each group worried about being disadvantaged by excessive openness. The breakthrough came when smaller nations began demonstrating the cooperation that major powers seemed unable to achieve. Nordic countries formed a partnership with several African nations to activate the third chamber, which contained medical technologies for eliminating infectious diseases. Their success provided a model that larger nations could follow. Ambassador Keth expressed pleasure at the success of the smaller nation partnerships, while noting disappointment that major powers continued to struggle with basic cooperation requirements. The alien explained that galactic civilization depended on the ability of different species and cultures to work together, despite their differences. Nations that could not cooperate with their own species would struggle even more with truly alien civilizations. Lisa found herself serving as a mediator in increasingly tense negotiations between world leaders. Her unique role as the primary crystal interface gave her influence that she had never wanted. Presidents and prime ministers sought her insights about alien intentions while she struggled to understand the complex political calculations that prevented obvious beneficial cooperation. The fourth chamber presented the greatest challenge yet, by requiring cooperation between religious and secular nations. The Vatican needed to partner with communist governments, while Islamic nations had to work with Jewish and Hindu-majority countries. The chamber contained technologies for food production that could eliminate hunger worldwide, but religious and ideological differences made partnership extremely difficult. Dr. Foster documented how the evaluation process was forcing humanity to confront its deepest divisions and prejudices. The alien technologies offered solutions to problems that had plagued human civilization for centuries, but accessing those solutions required overcoming the very conflicts and competitions that had created the problems in the first place. The pressure of the evaluation began to produce unexpected changes in international relationships. Traditional enemies found themselves forced to communicate and compromise in ways that had seemed impossible before alien contact. The shared challenge of proving worthy for galactic citizenship created new bonds between nations that had been rivals for generations. Jake observed that military leaders were beginning to think beyond national defense toward planetary security. The revelation that hostile alien species existed in the galaxy made traditional military competitions seem petty and counterproductive. Defending Earth would require integrated global defense systems that no single nation could provide. The fifth chamber demanded economic cooperation that challenged fundamental assumptions about capitalism, communism, and resource distribution. Wealthy nations had to genuinely share resources with developing countries, while communist and capitalist systems needed to find common ground for managing alien technologies. The chamber contained automated manufacturing systems that could eliminate scarcity if properly managed cooperatively. Ambassador Keth revealed that the evaluation process was being observed by representatives from all Confederation member species. Humanity's performance would influence not just membership decisions, but also the level of trust and responsibility that would be granted to human civilization. Species that barely passed evaluation received limited access to galactic society, while those that exceeded expectations became influential Confederation members. The sixth chamber required generational cooperation, as older and younger political leaders had to work together despite their different perspectives on technology and social change. Traditional conservative politicians needed to partner with progressive reformers to unlock environmental restoration technologies. The generation gap that existed in many societies became a barrier to accessing solutions for climate change. Lisa discovered through her mental connection that several Confederation member species were actively supporting humanity's evaluation efforts. These aliens provided subtle guidance and encouragement through the Crystal Network, while being careful not to interfere directly with the test process. The knowledge that other species wanted humanity to succeed provided motivation during the most difficult negotiation periods. The seventh and final chamber presented the ultimate challenge by requiring unanimous agreement from every nation on Earth about how to proceed with galactic citizenship. The chamber contained communication technologies that would connect Earth permanently to the Confederation network. But activating these systems required every government to formally accept the responsibilities and limitations that came with membership. The final negotiations stretched over 2 weeks as delegates from 195 nations struggled to reach consensus on humanity's future. Small island nations worried about being dominated by major powers. Developing countries demanded guaranteed access to alien technologies. Traditional societies sought protection for their cultural practices and beliefs. Jake watched the negotiations with growing amazement as humanity gradually overcame obstacles that had seemed insurmountable. The shared goal of galactic citizenship provided motivation for compromises that would have been impossible under normal circumstances. Ancient enemies found ways to work together while maintaining their distinct identities and interests. The successful activation of all 7 chambers marked humanity's passage of the unity test and qualification for Galactic Confederation membership. Ambassador Keth expressed admiration for the species that had managed to overcome its divisions to achieve genuine cooperation. The road ahead would bring new challenges, but humanity had proven its readiness to join the galactic community. The formal acceptance of humanity into the Galactic Confederation took place 1 year after Lisa first touched the crystal in the Nevada desert. The ceremony occurred simultaneously at all 18 crystal sites around Earth, as representatives from 47 different alien species participated through quantum communication links. Lisa found herself at the center of the most significant moment in human history. Ambassador Keth appeared not as a mental voice but as a holographic projection, showing the alien's actual physical form for the first time. The being stood 7 feet tall with 4 arms and crystalline skin that reflected light in complex patterns. Its large eyes conveyed ancient wisdom and genuine warmth as it addressed the assembled human representatives from around the world. The ambassador explained that humanity had exceeded expectations during the evaluation process. Most species required multiple attempts to pass the unity test, while others never achieved the cooperation necessary for membership. Humans had demonstrated remarkable adaptability and creativity in overcoming their differences to work toward common goals. Dr. Foster documented the transfer of basics, Confederation technologies that would begin humanity's integration into galactic civilization. Clean fusion reactors would provide unlimited energy, while environmental restoration systems would reverse centuries of ecological damage. Medical technologies would eliminate most diseases and extend human lifespans significantly. But the ambassador emphasized that these gifts came with serious responsibilities. Jake learned that his role would expand dramatically as humanity developed its first interstellar capabilities. The Confederation needed experienced pilots to operate the quantum drive ships that connected member worlds. His engineering background and careful approach to alien technologies made him an ideal candidate for advanced training. Within 5 years, he would be traveling between star systems on diplomatic and exploration missions. The integration process would be gradual to prevent the cultural shock that had destroyed other species during their transition to galactic citizenship. Human governments would remain largely unchanged while slowly adopting Confederation standards for citizen welfare and environmental protection. Earth would gain a voice in galactic affairs proportional to its contribution to common defense and scientific research. Colonel Hayes received new responsibilities as humanity's first planetary defense coordinator. The hostile alien species that Ambassador Keth had mentioned posed real threats that required sophisticated military responses. But Confederation defense relied on coordination and mutual aid rather than individual national militaries. Hayes would need to integrate Earth's military forces into a global command structure that could work with alien allies. Lisa discovered that her unique connection to the crystal network made her humanity's primary ambassador to other Confederation species. Over the coming years, she would travel to dozens of worlds to represent human interests and perspectives in galactic forums. The mental discipline required for crystal communication had prepared her for even more complex interactions. With truly alien minds, the first group of human students was selected for education at Confederation universities where they would study alongside beings from across the galaxy. The academic exchange program would eventually produce a generation of humans who understood both terrestrial and galactic perspectives. These graduates would become leaders in humanity's expanding role within Confederation society. Dr. Clark worked with alien linguists to develop translation protocols for the hundreds of languages used throughout Confederation space. Human languages would be preserved and protected while citizens learned galactic standard communication methods. The linguistic diversity of Earth impressed alien scholars, who saw human language evolution as a valuable research subject. The technological integration proceeded carefully with safety protocols based on the lessons learned during the evaluation process. Jake supervised teams of engineers who studied Confederation technologies before attempting to build human versions. The deliberate pace frustrated some political leaders but prevented the catastrophic accidents that had destroyed other species. Ambassador Keth revealed that humanity's successful evaluation had influenced other ongoing tests throughout the galaxy. Several species had observed human cooperation efforts and had modified their own approaches to unity challenges. The ripple effects of Earth's achievement would benefit civilizations that humanity might not encounter for centuries. The economic implications of Confederation membership transformed global society as scarcity became obsolete for basic necessities. Automated manufacturing systems could produce food, clothing, and shelter for everyone on Earth using only common materials and fusion energy. But the transition required careful management to prevent social disruption and economic collapse. Religious and philosophical leaders struggled to understand humanity's place in a universe filled with intelligent life. Some saw Confederation membership as fulfillment of ancient prophecies about unity and peace. Others worried that contact with alien civilizations would undermine traditional beliefs and cultural practices. Ambassador Keth emphasized that diversity of thought and belief was valued within the Confederation. The revelation that Earth was not alone had profound psychological effects on human consciousness. Mental health professionals noted increases in both anxiety and wonder as people adjusted to their expanded understanding of reality. Support groups formed to help individuals cope with the implications of galactic citizenship. The crystal sites became places of pilgrimage for those seeking spiritual connection to the larger universe. Jake participated in humanity's first interstellar mission just 18 months after Confederation membership began. The journey to Proxima Centauri took only 3 days using quantum drive technology. The experience of seeing Earth from interstellar space gave him a perspective that few humans had ever imagined possible. He understood viscerally that humanity was now part of something immeasurably larger than itself. The defense challenges became real when hostile aliens tested Confederation resolve by attacking a remote research station. Human military units participated in the joint response alongside forces from a dozen other species. The successful defense demonstrated that Earth could contribute meaningfully to galactic security, despite being the newest Confederation member. Lisa's diplomatic work brought her into contact with the senior leadership of Confederation government, including species that had been members for thousands of years. She learned that humanity's rapid progress impressed even ancient civilizations that had seen hundreds of evaluations. The human combination of creativity, cooperation, and determination was unusual among galactic species. The cultural exchange programs produced unexpected benefits as human art, music, and literature found enthusiastic audiences among alien species. Jazz music became popular on worlds hundreds of light years from Earth, while alien poetry influenced human writers in return. The creative cross-pollination enriched both human and galactic culture. Dr. Foster established research partnerships with alien scientists that accelerated human understanding of physics, biology, and consciousness. The collaboration revealed that human scientific methods offered unique perspectives that complemented alien approaches. Earth scientists became valued members of research teams studying the fundamental nature of reality. The environmental restoration of Earth proceeded rapidly using Confederation technologies. Extinct species were revived using genetic reconstruction methods, while polluted areas were cleaned by automated systems. The planet that had been damaged by centuries of industrial development began to return to its natural beauty. Future generations of humans would inherit a world more pristine than any in recorded history. Ambassador Keth announced that humanity had earned the right to sponsor other species for Confederation evaluation. Within a few decades, Earth scientists would help identify and contact civilizations ready for galactic citizenship. The student would become the teacher as humanity shared the wisdom gained. From its own evaluation experience, Jake reflected on how much had changed since that morning when he intercepted Lisa's small plane carrying an alien crystal. The whispered truth that had changed everything was simple but profound. True strength came not from technological power but from the wisdom to use that power responsibly. Humanity had proven it possessed that wisdom and had earned its place among the stars. The future stretched ahead, filled with challenges and opportunities that no human had ever imagined. Earth was no longer an isolated world, but a valued member of a galactic community that spanned thousands of civilizations. The journey that began with a crashed crystal in the Nevada desert had led humanity to its destiny among the infinite wonders of the universe. As Lisa stood beneath the stars on a clear night, she could see the lights of Confederation ships moving between Earth and other worlds. Humanity had passed its greatest test and had been welcomed into the galaxy. The whispered truth had indeed changed everything, and the changes were just beginning.